It's event caterer, and we're working maybe 150 to 180 events per year. We have fixed employees of 21, and I will give you a short history of an event that happened for the last 2 years for us, which was the biggest event we ever had. I call it from customer corporate event to public catering because that's what it's all about. And we haven't had any experience with public catering. Twice a year we have the Fashion Week in Berlin. Probably most Europeans hear about that. It's one of the biggest fashion exhibitions in the world. And one part of it, the premium, takes place at the station Berlin. This used to be an old train station. It's very characteristic for what people think of Berlin. The architecture is a bit run down, but it's very chic and very hip. You might ask, so why actually did we want to do that? And there are a couple of reasons for that. Once, this event happens twice a year, and as an event caterer, it's always a good thing when you start budgeting the next year and you know there are a couple of events you can rely on. In numbers, we're talking about 5,000 exhibitors, which we have there on the venue for 3 days, and usually they don't leave the venue, which means you've got 5,000 people who probably rely on your food and your drinks. We have a lot of side events. You can imagine that companies like Tommy Hilfiger, like Boss, they want to promote their new labels, and that's what we do as well. And we got like 45,000 visitors within the 3 days. But the most important fact to me as an event caterer is that the station is one of the top event locations in Berlin. It's got like 23,000 square meters on space, which means you can host at least 2,000 or 3,000 people up there. And there was just no chance for me as Cool Pepper, because we have been too small, to become a preferred partner. So my strategy was just go in the pitch. You probably don't win it, but they will always remember your name if we have a good performance in the pitch. Last but not least, cash is king. We're talking about a volume of almost 200,000 euros, where around 75 to 80% is paid cash, which means no waiting for the money. You sell, you get it. And this is in January and July, which happen to be rather low, moderate months for us in Berlin. Which problems did we face when we start working? Actually, we did win the pitch, which surprised me most of all. And I come to that later. But the first problem we faced was communication. We have been used to talk to event agencies, to business people who do quite a lot of events around the world. This is something that is our regular base. We know the vocabulary, we know how to write the emails. What happened now is my client talked design and chic, and I was like, what do they want? I mean, we're talking about 1,000 pizzas selling at lunchtime, and they were talking about how to cut the zucchinis on top of it. What kind of toppings do we do? And that was so strange to us, not talking about budgets and timelines and that, but about shishi, as we call that. So I got really fed up, I must admit, and I thought, okay, if I don't understand the girls, let the girls talk. And so I had 2 ladies starting the communication with them, and that got much better already. One of them is sitting there, Matthias, did their job for me. Thanks again. There's a problem we faced in communication was how do the information come from the inside to the outside? As I told you, we're working on a base with 21 employees. We're working with Mise en Place in Berlin. And just for that event, we needed about 150 to 160 people. And we were really not used to communicate with such amount of people, plus all the freelancers. And you can imagine that coming up there to the event, and we had only 75 days before the thing started, was really a problem to us. So what we actually found was very low cost and free software, things like Basecamp and Dropbox and Prezi, which made life so much easier for us, because you just put your scanner in there, you put your Excel data in there, and you could share it very easy and for low cost as well with the rest of the team. When we came closer to the event, the next problems occurred, and that was definitely the food. As we came along and talked to the people, to our clients, we realized that the standard we usually do for our events was far too high, and we were making funny things that nobody really wanted, because what they wanted was simple, easy, international and vegan food, because they had no time, they were always in a hurry, and it has to be very quickly served. So on that hand, it was too late to change our food concept, and that was the first mistake we made in the planning for the upcoming event. Next problem was calculating the food, because we had no figures at all. We didn't know the turnover, we didn't know how much food did the caterer before use, what kind of food stock did he have. There was just zero information for us. So that was almost heartbreaking. Times we spent in the kitchen with the chefs and thinking of how many sandwiches do we prepare, how many salads do we have to do. And we came closer and closer that we have to do the food fresh, fresh, and fresh again, meaning coming very close in the timeline between the actual producing and the selling of the food, that at least you didn't have the finished products, but a lot of stock. Finally, when we started the setup, the third big problem occurred, and that was logistic. As I told you, the station used to be a train station, and also it's very chic and what people think. It's not at all a place where you usually would do events and such amount of people. It was like setting up a supply chain on a camping site. So you think, okay, that would be a nice place for a pizza oven, but there was no way to get any electricity, there was no way to get some water. So we really had a big problem with that. The solution to that, and for the next fashion weeks we were doing after the first one, was we built up a lot of experiences how to use this very specific location. The last thing on the logistic was that we were calculating time from the stock room to the 25 F&B outlets we had. And what we did, and it was a big mistake, we said, okay, usually you need 10 minutes from the stock room to coffee bar 1. You need 15 minutes from there to food court. But we did that in the evenings when there was no customer. As soon as the trade opened, we needed at least 3 times that long. Now we laugh about it, but if you have no experience, that was the third big problem we were facing. We did some things as well, and they were pretty good. But maybe, as it is a best practice, But we started on a Tuesday, 10 o'clock, we opened. It was a gray January day, I always remember that, maybe like your day in Frankfurt. They estimated 45,000 people over 3 days. What nobody expected was like more than 25,000 people coming on the first day. So that was more than a rush. It all went with our plan. Our plan was bloody shit, because it was so packed that at 1:30 in the afternoon, the whole system collapsed. Nothing went anymore, nothing. We had a 150-seater restaurant, a la carte restaurant, and after I lay down on the floor for 10 minutes and thought, okay, you need to make some decisions now. What can you do? We came to the conclusion that we had to push the reset button on every of the 25 outlets, starting with the restaurant, which was almost like a revolution, because whether people had something to eat or not, whether they had paid or not, everybody had to leave the restaurant to make it empty, to send your whole staff out for a drink and a cigarette, then come back, reset, renew your mise en place, and start all over again. It sounds nice now, but I can tell you that was...
Reset your brain.
Reset your brain. Anyway, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't want to say that it started working, but it worked somehow all over the fair. So we did that pretty well. But there are success stories as well. What did we do well done? We did some branding for our customer. This part of the Fashion Week is called the Premium. And they wanted a special beer. And what I found was a Premium Bavaricum, which is from Freising, the Weinstefan, oldest brewery in the world. And they actually labeled 15,000 bottles for us with a Premium International Fashion Trade Show. That was really nice. The people from the fashion, they loved that. We did food trucks, as we heard FXE a couple of years ago. We had a gourmet liner, which is a bus with around 35 leather seats. It's very up class, it's really high class. We had an a la carte restaurant in there, which was used for private, very informal meetings. That was really nice. We had something like a burger truck, an Airstream restaurant, which was really nice as well, and burger are very hip food, that was really nice as well. We did mobile services. Thinking of exhibitors with maybe just 1 or 2 people on the booth, staying there for 8 or 10 hours, couldn't leave because they were so small and they always were waiting for customers. We said, okay, let's bring the food and the coffee to them. That was really good, because then you could put some leftovers, you know, when in the morning the croissants at 10 o'clock, maybe nobody wanted croissants anymore. So you put them on the mobile service for half a price, and then doing the same at lunchtime for salads, doing the same with muffins and brownies for the afternoon.
Where did you get the flight cases?
Or you can buy them at the internet. They're like not big thing. Last but not least, well done. We did win the pitch, and as I said, we have been in the pitch with 12 really big caterers. And after all, I asked them, so why was it us? And it was really surprising, because they said, you were the only one who was listening what we actually wanted. Okay, at the end of the day, we both knew that what they wanted is not possible for such an amount of people. But listening to our customers, presenting well, that they understand, and not only facts and figures, but the story around it all, really makes it much easier to win something, even if you're a small company. Last but not least, our best ideas. What did work really well in the practice? We had, as I said, a 150-seat a la carte restaurant. We did the order with Orderbird. We were working with mise en place, very young people. They're very much into their iPhones. It's self-explaining system. It's for that amount what we needed, pretty low price. We could do all the coffee bars with it.
Is this an app?
This is an app, yeah.
Order.
Yeah. And that did work pretty well. We invented an online order for the exhibitors. The thing was, we were thinking about 5,000 exhibitors. What do we do is an all order at once? And I said, ooh, that would be a big problem. So give them a discount in advance. And it is an online tool, what we invented. They put in the post number in there. Then the next page would be, okay, when do you want to order? Let's say on a Tuesday. If you open the Tuesday, you got a timeline in 2 hours. And at last you just say, okay, maybe from 8 to 9 delivery time. I want 2 lunch bags Berlin, I need 1 lunch bag New York. This, together with a discount system, which is always like 24 hours before the next day, that really worked well, and it was very good to organize for our logistics teams. The last thing, and that really was the best idea we had, because it influenced our working now in our company, was creating a catering concierge. The thing was that we got so many information who not everybody could know where they are and where they belong to. And then we were thinking, okay, what is when exhibitors ask us? What is when visitors ask? We need one place where all the information come together, like a brain, like a catering brain. And I thought the catering concierge would be perfect because we all know the word concierge from the hotels. And he's the one, if he has no answer, he will know someone who's got the answer. And that was a pretty simple idea behind that. So the catering concierge had his own phone number, had his own mail address, had his steady position, and that worked really well on the fair. And I thought, okay, that might be something we could use in our company as well, because we're working with very complex themes, talking about big events. There's logistics, there are timetables, there are changes. How about inventing a concierge in our company? And we started that project April 1st this year. We set us 3 months if it's working out or not. And I must tell you that it's really working out. It's so much easier for our logistic team. It's so much easier for our project managers because they can concentrate now on the work they have to do and on the work I expect them to do. Before, they had to do so many little things, starting from flowers to where to lay, the logistics, stocks and traffic jam, whatever. Now we got a place where all this information come together, and if ever they have questions, they just ask one person, and they will have the answer. So after all, that was really nice, and to give you an idea of what I was talking about, there is just a 2-minute video about the first premium we had. Afterwards, I must say it matches perfectly to Milano with the fashion. What you're seeing here is the restaurant. It's like a pop-up restaurant. It had an open kitchen in one of the storerooms. Usually they're keeping all the chairs and tables in there. The idea of an a la carte restaurant is pretty good, and we adopt them for the events now. For example, for the Location Award in Berlin in September, we will set up a restaurant in an event. So you will have the buffet, and we will have an a la carte restaurant in an event as well. This is one of the tentative salads. This is Alberta, we've seen before. We were selling currywurst out there because it was winter and soup. Backstage catering, as I said, come very close from production to the actual selling point and the timetable. And the next success story, our flying teams with coffee rucksack as well. This was a takeaway restaurant where we had a lot of live cooking and 5 culinary stations with Berlin, Asia, vegan and salad, sushi and hamburger. So, that was our experience.
Matthias, cool pepper, pretty cool, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Questions? This was fascinating. I'm sure you will have a lot of interaction during the next 2 days, and you got a lot of inspiration. Thank you, Matthias. We have now Oscar from Barcelona.